It's sounding like the US dollar is in a lot of trouble. So this week I decided to make a video on how to hedge against inflation and protect assets with sewing, of all things. But before we get into all of that, I have to discuss what happened in the news this week that prompts me to make this video. BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are making some major moves. Let's roll the clip and then I'll come back with my commentary.
Brazil and China are ditching the dollar. From now on, they'll use their own currencies for trade. So China is pushing the yuan.
I said, so what? I don't care. Brazil's a small country, until I heard this.
Russian lawmakers recently said that BRIC nations are in the process of creating a new payment established on a strategy that does not defend the dollar or the euro. And I was wondering if you could confirm that, if you have talked about this with your BRIC colleagues here at the UN.
We've been talking about the need to delink us from the dependence on dollar and other foreign Western currencies, long time. And that is not just an issue for Russia, but for many other countries, because you know what happens after EU, US, and some other countries introduced how they call it, health sanctions against Russia.
If all of these nations, especially Russia and China, get completely away from the US dollar, it will cause hyperinflation. So here are some things that we can do as a sewing community to prepare just in case this happens. So this is my box of sewing machine needles. I always buy them in bulk from Waywalk, or I purchase them at craft stores like Hobby Lobby when they run the 50% off sale or 40% off sale. And I think it's always good to stock up on these needles because you cannot use your sewing machine without needles. And when we run into a situation like the pandemic of 2020, then everybody is running crazy looking for sewing machine needles and sewing supplies. And if you already have your supplies, you don't have to get in the rat race and try to find sewing machine needles. And you also don't have to worry about the inflation or the hiked up prices, because I know that during the pandemic, they hiked up prices on a lot of sewing supplies because everybody was desperate to get them. So it's just a really good idea to do this in what we are facing today. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive updates when I do a new upload. While you are shopping for sewing supplies, definitely do not forget to buy thread. Thread is one of the most important things to have, and I like to get mine in these large spools like this when there are colors that I use frequently. So all of your neutral colors and your black and your white and that sort of thing, I would definitely get those in larger spools. And then for the smaller ones, you can save money by getting the smaller spools for those. So I just thought that would be something else wonderful to mention when we are thinking about the inflation and the potential crash of the US dollar. So I have this little pouch here that I've gotten from Dollar Tree, and inside of it I have all of my scraps interfacing. And the scraps are good to keep because you can cobble them together to create new pieces of interfacing to use on your projects, and it's just a wonderful way to save money because all these little teeny scraps do add up in the long run. If you've got a ton of scrap fabric like I do, don't throw it away. I use cash register tape and then sew all of my pieces of scrap fabric onto the cash register tape because this is just the quickest way to do it. And once I've sewn all of the fabric onto the cash register tape, then I take it over to my ironing board, iron it all flat, and cut all the excess edges off. And then I have perfectly square sheets that I can then roll up and create into a big roll of fabric that I can use at a later date. So you all should definitely do this because it is a quick way to get rid of all of your fabric scraps and be able to reuse them, so we're just not wasting anything. Since there are issues with the dollar, I would definitely recommend diversifying what you have. Instead of just having everything in all cash, I would recommend getting some silver and some gold if you can. But then as a sewing enthusiast, I would say that it is important to have sewing machines. And some people will say you're crazy for collecting sewing machines, but if you get nice sewing machines that maintain their initial value, then those are investments that you can use to barter for other things, or to take that and sell it during a time where everybody's looking for sewing machines. For example, during the pandemic, many people made a killing by selling off some of their sewing machine collections because everybody was looking for a sewing machine, and there were hardly any sewing machines in the store, and those that were available were super inflated in price because the demand had gone up. I think that in an economic crash that the demand for sewing machines would raise dramatically, because everyone would be looking to repair their clothes and repair their items rather than going out and buying brand new items that have a hyperinflated price. Most importantly, you're going to want to continue to improve upon your sewing skills, because your sewing skills are actually something that can be used as a bargaining chip. There are going to be a ton of people out here who still don't want to learn how to sew, but who need things made for them. And you can say, well, if I make this for you, then you have to give me X, Y, and Z. I'm using electricity to power my sewing machine and lights. If the dollar were to fail, we would likely experience rolling blackouts. And in the case of rolling blackouts, we of course would not be able to use our sewing machines unless we had access to solar panels and a portable battery bank. This is why I highly recommend getting these two items for your sewing room. It will be extremely important to have, and you may need to use those same items for other things. They're not that expensive, and I have links to them down in the description box below. I really do hope that the dollar doesn't collapse, but if it does, it's better to be prepared than to not be prepared at all. If you have any tips for others about how they can prepare for something like this, then please do leave it in the comment section below. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to receive more sewing related content.